Bem-vindo ao nosso episódio novo de VOX IUVENTUS IMPACTUS. A minha vossa host, Ashna Tyson, brindando vosso conteúdo diverso e também interessante. Hoje nós está acompanhando com guest speaker conosco. Me tem de visa que nós temos outro guest speaker que lamentavelmente não para make it, mas não tem problema, nós vamos continuar com a conversação anyways. Me dá uma oportunidade para introduzir você a nós oyentes. Go ahead.
Okay. Should I just...
Yes, go ahead.
I'm Mikaela Semeleer, and I'm an artist, and I am gender fluid and queer, and happy to be here.
Yes. Thank you for being here, definitely, on this very special month, June, which is Pride Month, essentially. And on this very special episode, we're going to be talking about Pride, but not only Pride. We're going to be talking about the importance of Pride and why it's important for people to be understanding of it, and also for us to acknowledge it as a topic of importance in our society. Nós também está papeando mix de papeamento em inglês, para motivo que o nosso guest speaker está mais confortável papeando em inglês, então nós queremos informar de isso de antemano. Para mim que nós vai de viajar de conversação mesmo, me te desejar de informar uma vez mais que nós está encorajar todos que está mirando-nos, pero também estão na comment section, para por favor interact com o outro de uma maneira respeitosa, trata de papel de tópico de uma maneira positiva e também por de ter compreensão para outro de comments, para assim nós podemos ter conversação mais produtiva e também mais saudável. Pero agora nós também continuar com nossa conversação hoje, tópico sumamente importante, e me também pontrabo nossa primeira pergunta para a conversação aqui quarta. Do you believe there is a lack of representation and visibility for LGBTQ+ in Aruba? Let's talk about it.
All right. Well, I definitely believe that there's a lack of representation for the LGBT in our community, like in the island itself.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that now there's more representation in the media and online and in social media that's our youth has access to, because a lot of them are online now. But
yes.
When I was younger, there was definitely no representation, zero to little representation
yes.
of LGBT.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know of what a gay person was, or a lesbian person was, or a trans person. I didn't have the wording for that, and I grew up here from the ages of 1 to 9, maybe like 15 years ago, let's say.
Not that long ago,
I'm
don't
25,
worry, you're still very young.
I'm 25 right now, but yeah, during that time when I was living here from those ages,
yes.
I really didn't know anything about anything of LGBT, and I had no words to put who I was or what I was, or but I definitely had like experiences that
yes.
were pretty close to being into LGBT. And I think the internet and the media helps a lot with our youth today to really know kind of what they're going through, you know, because in the past it was more closed, I would say, and there wasn't that much representation. I definitely agree with what you're saying. I think that especially in Aruba, I think that not only do we not see it a lot in our media, it's also not a lot in our schools. We learn about sex education. Basta din school nós tá sinha din sa school básico de mover de bozes de bota sinha de compa cuida bo corpa, and also in secondary school des din MAVO, HAVO, IPB, bota começa sinha de sex de diferente maneira, pero bonota sinha se bota persona LGBTQ+, compa proteger bom mês. Kiko sex significa pabo se bota LGBT person. E essa tá cria que bonota informação disponível pabo. Então, se está assim, o botico vai buscar outra maneira para a informação. Qual tu valor da internet?
of social media. And so that has really helped a lot of people, because if it wasn't for that, a lot of them wouldn't know, okay, I identify as this gender, I identify with this sexual orientation. Hopi na no lo sa. So I think the internet ayuda, facilita, kung mas hopi, hene nata começa a descobrir mais lihe, quem não tá. Então, a base de essay, como natawana mes din sociedade. So it's very, very important, yes.
Yeah. Definitely, like, when I started developing, like, my sexuality around the ages of 11 and beyond, that's when the internet started coming. There was YouTube, and now I was finally using the internet, and YouTube and videos like definitely helped me with like a lot of questions that I had about sexuality, because I didn't really have anyone else to really go to ask, because first of all, I didn't even have the like terms and stuff for it.
Exactly.
And I really didn't know what was really happening. You know, I was just like, I felt kind of isolated in that way, because they like, when I was younger, people were already asking me like, oh, what kind of guy do you like? Or
what if I don't like guys?
And I never really, at that time, I didn't have many crushes on guys at all, so I didn't really know what to answer.
Is everything okay?
I didn't really know
you start questioning yourself. Yeah, definitely. And it helps when you can see examples of yourself in the media and like, hey, that's what I'm experiencing, that's what I'm going through, and I can relate to that, I can connect to that, because if you're not seeing examples of yourself, then it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to, one, find yourself, who you are, but to find other people that connect with you, that relate to what you're experiencing.
And I think that was like the isolating part, because there's like that expectation like, oh, this is a girl, so she must like boys and stuff, but I didn't have any boy crushes at that young age. And still like beyond, but like it was just, I felt strange in that way, that I was like, I'm supposed to be having crushes on these guys because people are asking me, but I don't like have the answer, you know?
I get it.
So I really had to go on the internet and ask questions online, being like, what are other people's experiences with that?
Definitely.
It's pretty confusing.
It can be a confusing time, because it's a time when you are trying to really understand what makes you you. And you're trying to find different aspects of yourself that you can relate to other people with, like music or art. But if you have a question mark on your identity, that makes it hard for you to make relationships and also for you to make friendships. So definitely something that a lot of people that are in the LGBTQ plus experience, because of the fact that there isn't a lot of representation. I definitely see that. Okay. If any of you, me to switch back para papiamento, se qualquer persona tem a comment section ta agree of team mane connection com nos papiando DJ, please lega nos sayore de comments below, para assim nós por intercambiar diferentes pontos de vista a base de pergunta aqui. E agora nós também para a seguinte pergunta, if that's okay with you. Yes. Okay, well, a seguinte pergunta tá: what kind of social issues have you encountered as an LGBTQ plus youth in the community?
Okay.
And this can be anything, you know. This can be like, for example, on like an individual point of view, but it can also be like a social point of view. Maybe something you've seen, maybe something you experienced personally. So there's many ways to answering this question.
Okay. Well, I'm going back kind of to like the discovering of myself as a youth, as a child, and I definitely like had many questions of myself and not really many answers, and with the expectation to like guys, and also the expectation that I'm a girl, because I did not, when I was younger, I did not like ordinary girl stuff, like dolls and stuff. I was always gifted dolls.
Yeah, your typical feminine things.
Yeah. And I wanted to play with like action toys. I wanted to do puzzles. I wanted to play soccer or wrestle with the guys, you know, and I wasn't able to do that because I was expected to play with dolls and to not want to do physical things like play soccer.
Yeah, be very physically active, very sportive.
Yeah, and also to wear dresses. I really didn't like wearing dresses, and I just remember when I was younger being like very jealous of my brother, because I have an older brother. That he
shout out to your older brother.
Shout out to my older brother. Yeah. Because like I felt like he didn't have these expectations put on him of how to like act, or he got all the things that I wanted. You know, he got all the toys. He could play video games all the time, and I would remember just wishing, like, I wish when I was younger I would tell my mom I wish I was a guy, because I felt, to me, that meant I would get the freedom to do whatever you wanted, without the expectations that are put on me because of my gender or what people perceive my gender to be. Yeah. And yeah, that was one of the I think biggest issues from when I was younger that I faced, like, and also with people expecting me to like guys. For example, when I was younger, I had a lot of crushes on girls already. I was like already kind of looking at girls and like, oh, wow.
You had like friendships with girls, but you were starting to see, oh, there's more than just friendship. There's an emotional connection there. I like them. Oh, okay. What does this mean? You know? Yeah.
And that was very confusing for me because the school I went to, at least, the school I went to was very Catholic, very religious, and my family also followed very religious Catholic things, like going to church and praying and all that, and reading the Bible and going through reciting. And that, I think, really confused me a lot when I was younger, because I mean, there's a lot of pictures of me in church, like not enjoying myself, and just like looking confused, like, why am I here? But when my sexuality began to develop, I had a lot of like the beliefs that, because when I just discovered what gay was, it was in a negative connotation. And I would remember that, like, I'd be like, oh, this is bad. Like, this is not good.
It's not something I should be.
Yeah. And because I had like the religious upbringing, I would really like pray that I was not gay. I would be like, please. I remember like every night, if the feelings like came up that I had feelings for women, I would pray like, please not
take this away.
Not me, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
And I did that for like the longest time, and because I couldn't accept it, I didn't know how to accept it within myself, and that's where YouTube like came in to help, because then I was watching videos of other people who were gay or lesbian, kind of discreetly at night, you know, myself
being together,
and I was just watching them. I was like, this is not so bad. It doesn't seem like a bad thing. Like, seems pretty normal, and I can relate to like a lot of things that they're saying. You know,
I totally get that.
Yeah, and I think when I started to see that, I was like, okay, maybe I should then accept it within myself, because this doesn't seem healthy to be like, you know, praying to not be this
yourself,
to have this thing in me that I keep repressing, you know, like.
Yes, definitely. And I feel like what you're saying probably speaks to a lot of people that are watching, because of the fact that we do live the reality is that we do live in a culture that is very conservative, that is very religious, and that impacts how a young person will develop in terms of their sexuality, but also just their identity. Like you're saying, praying the gay away or praying your true identity away just so that you can conform into the society that we live in is very common here. And especially it's very promoted. A lot of the times I find it very painful when I hear people speak about how de papiamento não tá bisa roupa, não tá bisa com se bo drenta de missa, bossa bota bira mas melhor. Se bo drenta de religião, bossa bo não tá sinta assim na mas. And why is there a need for me to change who I really am for others to feel less uncomfortable? You know, it's very important that we respect the fact that somebody is like this, and that enforcing a religion or a practice on them is not going to change that, and it really shouldn't. And I think that's a really, really big social issue that we have here.
I've had friends who are lesbian, who, because of their parents' like religious beliefs, they when they came out or when they discovered that they were lesbian, that they got kicked out of the house.
Yeah, exactly.
Their own house. So
yes.
That's creates a lot of trauma in the youth and a lot of pain, because it's like you can't even be yourself around your own family.
No, you can't.
And you can't even be in your own home because of the religious
environment,
you know, and the environment that it creates. And it's very sad to see those things happen. And I mean, for me, I was lucky enough I had moved out of Aruba by the age of 9, so I had the States, but I was still kind of visiting and going, you know. But when I came out, my family was very accepting. Not the older members, sadly, but the rest of my family were very accepting. So that was good. And I also had my house in the States that was also very accepting. So, but I think a lot of people here who have their family that all live here and are really in the Arubian culture and stuff have the issue of what my friend had of being kicked out or not accepted. I also had a trans friend where the family members just could not accept that she was a she and would always call her by a male name instead of the name that she wanted to be called, and always disregarded her identity. And so not only is she being disregarded at home, but she also had issues in school and stuff of kids not believing that she's trans and that she's a she and all of that. And those are very difficult experiences to go through.
It definitely is. It's interesting that you mentioned transgender people, because in Aruba in particular, it's one thing to have a sexual orientation, por ejemplo, para lesbian, gay, bisexual, asexual, but it's another to be trans, and it's a very different way that people treat you once they know that you are trans, and that can be dangerous. Timbiaha, não to timbia, pero hopi bia nos tabi badeng isla unda ku enot hopi safe pa persona ng kuta transgender por sinti cómodo pa na mes of pa expressar na mes, quizás biste paia ku eta associate ku nang actual gender, pa sobre ku ting chance hopi grande ku na por haya violência. Na po encontra violência, of na po encontra maneira bomesta bisa, na to get kicked out of their homes, e essa kita causa pero hopi trauma. And people really need to acknowledge it, that we have to, not only do we have to have more compassion for transgender people, we also have to be, protective in a way. They are a very vulnerable group in the LGBTQ plus community, and there's so much more we can do to ensure that their safety is ensured, especially transgender youths in Aruba.
Yeah, for sure. It's, I think the struggle with the trans people definitely, I would say, face a lot more struggles, because there's a lot more things they have to really pay attention to for their own safety, because
Yes.
like gay and lesbian people, I think here they can be out and open, and mostly they will face like maybe verbal abuse of their identity, but trans people are more susceptible to physical violence and people really lashing out at them for their identity, and just because of the misunderstanding of who they are, you know?
Definitely. I definitely agree with that. I think as well, there are not a lot of like healthcare benefits that are provided to them. If you are to do your transitioning procedure here, a lot of the times that is based on your own costs. E não te vou cobrir dor de seguro de healthcare. Dus ita algo que bota facing it on your own, and you are not supported to continue the process of just affirming, no being another being another gender, but affirming your gender. You know, that affects their ability to continue growing, to be stable. And I think that is definitely something that people have to look in the years coming, that there needs to be progress there. Something needs to change there.
Because in a way, like, trans people are kind of expected to go to, like, through the transitioning process of taking like hormones or physically altering their body so they can pass as a cisgendered person,
for example.
And usually it's for their own safety to do that.
Because
if they don't pass as like a regular woman or
man, for example,
that is cis, then they will face all the physical harassment and verbal abuse as well. And for the people that I've known who are trans, or they usually don't even want to leave their house because of how much of the harassment they face every day, just from not passing as a woman or a man.
Definitely.
And it's a really serious problem.
I definitely agree on that. Yes. If by any chance anybody who is watching has any strong feelings for what we are speaking about, feel free to share them in the comments below so that we can continue to have a conversation about the importance of this topic. Now, I want to ask another question in the first segment that we have. So this question is about culture. And specifically it's how does culture impact the LGBTQ plus community? We touched it briefly where we said that religion is one of them, and conservative behavior is one of them, you know? What are other things that you think impacts, from our culture, impacts this community?
Well, I feel like we have a pretty hyper masculine culture.
Yes,
you know,
that is one of them. Toxic masculinity.
Where, women are kind of treated like lesser beings.
Or sexually objectified.
Or very often sexually
objectified.
Objectified, and it's just there's not much respect for women in general, and for how that affects the LGBT community is that a lot of gay men are naturally more feminine than masculine, and they get a lot of bullying, verbal abuse, all of that for being more feminine and more in tune with their feelings, let's say. Because a lot of men here are not expected to be in tune with their feelings or to consider the feelings of other people. And it's just a norm here, you know? And so anyone who really exudes like femininity, be it like
through their clothing, through
their attitude, gets harassed constantly here.
Exactly. Nos ting nata llame toxic masculinity de inglês, pero lo cual está eigenlijk eta, não puedo traducir ele de papiamento, pero eta basicamente machismo. essencialmente ku hopi biaha nos tem uma maneira ku nos está expect para gente homem comportar. Então com essa aqui pode afetar em particular uma pessoa que está homossexual para sobre tintura expectations na aqui para com esta actua, com esta trata outra gente. Então esse está afetar com esta waxo mes, pero com achteraf com esta começa trata outra gente. They call it internalized homophobia, especially for LGBTQ plus people who, because of their environment, they start to hate themselves. They start to depreciate themselves. Everything around them is telling them that you are wrong and you should not feel this way. So they start to internalize it, this internaliser, and that really can affect and have long-term damages for how they see themselves in the future, but who they eventually become.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the internalized homophobia that comes from that, I think affects a lot of gay men here, even women, lesbian women.
I think so too, yeah.
Especially trans people as well, because the toxic masculinity is again very macho and pushy and expecting of certain roles to be played all the time, of the hypersexualization of the women or feminine, and
we also put roles on genders. You know that if you are a gender, you are expected to do this. If you are this gender, you're expected to do that. That also affects how they see themselves. So, as a woman, I should be doing this and not this, and how it's essentially just putting yourself in a box.
Yeah.
You know, you're just putting yourself in a label, in a category, and that doesn't help a person really grow. It's just putting them in line with what you expect of them.
Yeah. And it doesn't leave room for authenticity.
Correcto. Yeah.
It doesn't leave room for vulnerability. It creates a lot of more violent outlashes on not just the LGBT, but also for straight people. Like, it's very unhealthy because I think that straight men can exude feminine qualities and be in tune with their feelings, but our culture very much doesn't
embrace
them
it
or say that they can. And let's say, like, if a straight man, he has like feminine qualities, then he's said to be gay, and then there's already a negative connotation into being gay.
Yeah, si bota yora bonota hamber, si bota bosa hasi balet bonota hamber.
And also, if you don't hypersexualize woman, you're not a man.
Yeah, exactly. If you're not sexually active, you're not this, you're not that. It's all of these you are not, and more, and it's less of this is who you are. And thank you for being who you are, and I accept you because you are different, and through you I can learn differences from other people. Everybody is different, and that's what it should be about, that even though this person is not the same sexual orientation as I am, or the same gender, same identity, I can still learn from them, and I can still accept them, and just live amongst them. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
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 All right. Well, e agora nós vai para a seguinte pergunta. Quarta. What are the types of misconceptions surrounding identification, sexual orientation, and gender that you have encountered?
Okay. Well...
Isso é tão largo. Sorry.
Well,
Paes não que tá mirando nós, para mim que vou contestar assim. Misconception tá natayame concepto ng erróneo, onde ku nata basicamente ideia na ku hene nan ting de certo costan, pero ito ideia ku eta basicamente falso. Nanga creia about di princípio ng kuna kier gente pensa certa maneira, pero hope bia sei nota é caso. Do senhor e nós tá vai para bo answer. I'll give you the chance to answer the question.
Okay. There's quite a lot.
Yes, there's quite a lot. It's a very loaded question.
Yeah. Well, for one, I can say for, like, let's say lesbian women, they're expected to be more masculine and also not pretty. So if you're pretty and you're not really being masculine, a lot of people question if you're really lesbian or not, and they invalidate your sexuality because they'll say, oh, you're too pretty to be a lesbian, or you're too feminine to be a lesbian. Like, how do you not like men if you're being feminine or looking good, you know? And it's a really false misconception. There are very feminine women who are gay, and there are pretty lesbians, very pretty lesbians.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out to all the pretty lesbians in Aruba.
Yeah. So that to me is a strange concept that lesbian women are expected not to be pretty or feminine.
Exactly.
And another thing is with gay men, let's say, is that if a man's gay, everyone thinks that he likes every single guy, or he's trying to get with every single guy.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, this is so true. One minute to set the record straight. Funny, straight, no pun intended. Nota pa sobra kung persona ta gay, lesbian, of bisexual, que men automatisku nan quer heteribabo, of automatisku nan ti interesse tribabo. E mundo nota revolve around you. Dus posad, nota sina interessante. Dus me quer diz, but it's true. It's true.
But this is a very bad misconception because it then destroys a lot of friendships that gay men have or lesbian women have with their friends, because people think, oh, they like you're gay or lesbian,
they have a crush on
that
me.
means you must like everyone that's like a guy or a girl.
Yeah, they get paranoid. They think that LGBTQ plus doesn't have standards. Like, what? Okay. Just because we're friends does not mean I'm interested in you. I definitely, if I could share that with you, I definitely experienced that before. I've had many relationships, like friendships with girls that did not work out because they would start assuming that I would be interested in them, but that was not the case, just that I was very compassionate. We had a very strong relationship, but never that was the case. So I think a lot of people experience that in Aruba, but in general it's just something that it brings tension. Which I find is unnecessary. You know, it's not precisely because somebody has this sexual orientation or this identity means that they're instantly attracted to you or interested in you, and we shouldn't assume that.
Exactly. Like, really. But
do you have other encounters?
Yes, with trans people, let's say. Trans women are expected to be feminine, very feminine as well, or to want to be really feminine, or let's say to undergo feminization surgeries. And they're like, if they don't want to undergo these or they don't want to present more femininely, then people disregard them as being a trans woman, or say they're just a guy or something. And it's the same vice versa for guys, trans guys. They're expected to want to be more masculine, but the thing is that it's possible for a trans woman to be more masculine or a tomboy and still be a woman, because there are tomboy women that are still women. You know?
That doesn't change anything. It's just
an expression of masculine
how you want to present yourself.
And trans people are allowed to be both masculine or feminine and still want to be a woman, like to be called her or him, and still be valid in that experience. Like, that's with trans people, but there's more.
There is definitely more. Yes, I think we could make a whole list. We could fill a whole book with how many types of misconceptions we have, or that LGBTQ plus people experience. And I think that it's definitely something that people should aspire to.
Oh, there's one very important one that I want to say. It's with trans women and dating. Let's say they're dating a straight man, when the man discovers that she's trans, they think, oh, maybe I'm gay or something, or that means I'm gay because I'm dating a trans woman. But that's not true. They're still straight, and they also expect that like trans women are supposed to be interested in gay men, but there are straight trans women who are not interested in gay men because gay men are gay and don't like women, and a trans woman is a woman.
It's still a woman,
not a man.
A trans woman is still a woman, so you can't just like assume that transgendered women are going to start dating gay men.
Because they're not gay. They're not a gay man. They're a trans woman. And I think the reason why they might have this misconception is because of the sexual organ that person is born with. And they think, oh, maybe this person didn't undergo sexual reassignment surgery, let's say. They're still going through their transition procedure, or they just don't want it, let's say. And they think that means that they're not a woman or a man. But there are women with penises and there are men with vaginas. They are just
they're just body parts. Really,
it doesn't determine your gender.
No, it really doesn't. That's a common misconception, I think. You really hit the nail when you said that. A lot of the times people will assume, based on just the sexual reproductive organ that you have, that you are this, you are that, and you're automatically attracted to the opposite of it. And I think it's very important for us to understand that identity is one, but your sexual orientation is another. They're not the same. They're not matching socks, they're different, two very different things. So it's very important for people not to get those things confused. Definitely.
I'm still thinking because there's so many, but that was one really important one that I wanted to say, because it causes a lot of issues within dating for trans people, because I think it's just, it takes a lot more communication and understanding for them to even date someone, let's say, because of this misconception that, oh, I'm dating a trans woman, that might mean that I'm gay, but it's like,
it doesn't
mean anything like that.
I definitely agree. Well,
and that also causes violence as well, because then let's say the person starts dating the trans woman before knowing that she's a trans woman, and then he discovers that she's a trans woman, and then he can lash out violently and be justified in his, people will justify it because they'll be like, oh, it's not a real woman and she was tricking you or something. And that happens so often to trans women, and it's very scary.
It is scary.
Very scary.
So I can imagine relationships for trans people is not the easiest thing, because you are never truly aware if somebody is really going to accept you or they're not. And the idea that you can, you might not be able to see your relatives or be close to friends and family because of the fact that they're not totally aware of who you are, it really affects your mental health and your well-being and how you go day to day, how you function. It just, imagine being that and trying to function day to day. It's you feel constantly
like you
have to be on your guard. You have to prove yourself.
That's another thing. They constantly feel like they have to prove themselves and their gender to everyone, and it's like more intense than that if they don't prove it, then they have to face all this harassment as well, and violence, and it's very bad for trans people to have to go through that in their every single day life, like have to think about these things every single day. Like,
definitely, I agree.
It's definitely something we have to learn more about here on Aruba. And in the whole world. Like, it's a big issue.
And
another misconception that I wanted to cover is about gender, and it's about like certain clothing and ways of presenting. It's like a lot of people think that men can't wear makeup or dresses, but they can. And it's like normal to want to as well. Like, and it's also, yeah, women can also wear men's clothing, and it's just like a piece of clothes. Like it's not that big of a deal. Like it's, if someone really likes to express themselves and wear makeup and dresses and they feel good in it, there shouldn't be a problem with that. And it shouldn't, like, women and men shouldn't be expected to always wear these different clothings or fit these clothings or to not wear makeup or wear makeup. Like, some women don't like wearing makeup, and some women love wearing makeup.
I'm not good at doing my makeup, so
and some men are amazing at
doing makeup,
and wearing heels and everything. And it should be fine. Like, it's just a way of expressing yourself.
Exactly. It like, shouldn't be attached to whether this person has this sexual orientation or not. It should just be
their
about
gender.
They're just expressing themselves. You know, it could be a straight man or a straight woman dressing in different styles, in different fashion, and it's just expression. That's it. It's got nothing to do with, let's try and figure out what their identity is. Let's try and figure out what their sexuality is, you know? Why, you know?
And also, if we are more able to accept that women and men can wear all these different things, it will also help us accept trans people more as well, because like with what I said, that people expect trans women to present more femininely or to pass as like a cisgender looking women, but what even is that concept of what a cisgendered woman should look like or a cisgendered man should look like?
Maybe you could just explain briefly, what does cisgender mean?
It means people who are born with like a sexual, or like, let's say a man that's born with a penis and he identifies as a man, is a cis man. And a woman who is born with a vagina who identifies as a woman is a cisgendered woman.
So essentially, non-trans people, anto basicamente nanta confortável, nanta não tem muito para gender, não gender necessariamente, pero ku órgano ku nanga nasce com né. Nanta de acordo, ok, mas nasce que órgano aqui, ok. Amita esse. De seita basicamente que com cisgender person tá.
They basically just identify with
what they were born with.
What they're born with.
Yes.
And what we as a society identify that as.
Correcto. Ito hopi bom kuno sta mention esse so hopi viaja these terms, this tipo de terminologia nang aqui. Not everybody knows what they mean. So it's very important to be aware of it, and people start understanding what those words mean.
Another one last thing
that
I can think of is with identification and certain attachments to identities. Let's say someone comes out as gay. They should be, if they later on discover that they're like, let's say trans or something, or that they're bisexual, or maybe they're not even gay, they should have the liberty to then later on say that I've discovered now that I am bi, or I am now identifying as a trans person. And we shouldn't think that like once someone comes out as something, that means that's their like solid identity.
Correcto.
Full throughout their whole life, let's say.
Correcto.
There should be more flexibility in that, and we should use these identities more as tools to connect with people with similar experiences or to explain our inner being. And I think it's just the attachment. It's like, oh, once you come out as gay, you have to
remain that identity
for the rest of your life.
Yes.
Puts a lot of pressure on people, and it doesn't allow people to really grow and change or be flexible in their new discoveries of themselves as they grow.
I totally understand, and that's very true. I think they sort of like hold them to, okay, you came out a couple of years ago as lesbian, but now you are dating both men and women. What happened? Like, were you just straight this whole time? No, it's a constant discovery. People are constantly figuring out who they are, and that sometimes takes time, and sometimes that can take years, and it can change. It can change based on experiences. I love the way you said that they should use it as tools to keep learning about who they are, rather than just, this is definitively who I am. So I think that's a very nice way to look at it.
Yeah, because in my experience, I identify as gender fluid, and it's because I know my identity is fluctuating constantly. Sometimes I feel more masculine, sometimes I feel more feminine. And it's been like that throughout my whole life. So, and that's caused me, like, the attachment to certain identities has caused me a lot of issues.
Yes, definitely. Okay. Well, I have one last question for you. Nos delasse pergunta para me conhecer a conversação. Mikaela Puntrapo, how can the community, so essentially Aruba, how can the Aruban community ensure a safer future for LGBTQ plus youth? We talked about a lot of different things that impact an LGBTQ's youth life, essentially here in Aruba. But what can we do? Is it education? Is it politics? Is it, like, how do you think we can ensure a safer future?
I think it's definitely going to take a lot of work. There's no quick solution to the issues that we face.
And there's no one size fits all.
Yeah. And I think it's the work that it takes is a lot of dismantling of certain beliefs, certain ways of being that we're so used to here, to really question that, to really look into it, because I think the reason why people, let's say, lash out violently to LGBT people is because of shame, because of things we feel ashamed about, and because of pain, and because of fear. And I think if we really want to ensure the safety of people, is to really question, where is this pain coming from? Where is this shame coming from? Where is this fear coming from? Within ourselves, even in our own community, in the LGBT community, and on everyone, like, to really question in themselves, why do I feel so afraid of this person who identifies this way? Why do I feel so shameful of their identity? Is it reflecting something within myself that makes me want to hit them, or to yell at them, or to tell them they're wrong, or not listen to them, or give them space to be themselves? We really have to question, where is this shame coming from? Where is this pain and all of that stuff coming from? And what beliefs that we have as a society cause this? And if we can find those beliefs and really question those and see if they're still serving us as a community, because a lot of them come from old beliefs,
and they don't serve us,
serve us in our current time, because in our current time with the internet and everything, people
in 2021, people, no time for outdated beliefs.
People are really discovering themselves, and I think it's important that we have the space for that here on the island, for LGBT to really have a space where they can feel free and safe to discover themselves, and for people to learn about them or to understand them instead of shaming them or fearing them, or causing pain towards each other for misunderstandings. So I think it's really important for us as a community to be really get introspective with ourselves and really question these things, and then to come together and really talk about these things like how we are right now, just talking. This was my experience, this is how I experienced that, it was painful, maybe we should try something different, you know, to really have these types of conversations and to really bring the awareness of these things happening, because a lot of the times these things don't even get talked about, or they just get ignored, or they're like, whatever, this is just how life is here. But if we really want a change to happen, we really have to question these things.
Yes, I definitely agree. I don't think that it's only a monthly thing where we make our social media icons rainbow colors, or we talk about pride on social media. It's a day-to-day life for LGBTQ plus community, how they experience everyday hardships. And it's very important to understand that this is not a monthly celebration, this is a lifetime celebration for the people that identify as LGBTQ plus, and how we can contribute to changing day-to-day things that affect their life is important. And no questions. Very important.
Because I think if we really do the work and really work through these things, then it will bring more safety for the children.
I definitely agree.
Because then we'll have a better understanding of ourselves and our people on the island.
Yes, definitely agree. Me quero agradecer por participação. Ito na huge conversation ku ainda me tem hopi kos di visa, pero it's okay. Me te seguro que estão ku ta mirando nós também tem hopi di visa tocante di topics que nós mencionar. Pero sí, me quero informar que Yammer está aqui, nos está clausurando o episódio. Essa é a last pergunta para nos guest speaker. Pero me quero dar uma oportunidade para informar que se você deseja de seguir a conversação aqui, por seguir com essa aqui via de comment sections, por comment, reply. Hasi uso de voz, laga voz ressonar nos comments below. Corda para subscribe, like, comment, share. Com friends e family, para assim o vídeo aqui para chegar mais leu. Também nós temos audience survey na description box below, para ele, onde eu vou por lá nos como é episódio aqui, que você pensa de setup novo, então que você pensa de tópico aqui mesmo, lá nos me te dá uma oportunidade. If you want to shout out like your social media, where they can find you, go ahead.
Well, you can find me on Instagram with the username Milky Milk with 2 K's at the end and no I in the second milk.
Got it.
And I'm sure you can put the @ in
we'll be putting it, don't worry.
or on Facebook as well. You can send me friend requests. And I have a lot of art on Instagram that you can also see, so if anyone's interested.
Yes, of course. Okay. All right. Well,
thank you for having me, and
thank you for
inviting me.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a part of a very important conversation. And we hope to have many more conversations about this. Let it not just be about Pride Month. Let it be something that you have within your friend circle, your family. Talk about how important it is to be understanding towards LGBTQ+, but also creating more awareness towards it, people being more aware of it. Make it a daily conversation. And I hope that this inspires people that are watching to talk about this more. We will see you next time on the next episode of VOX IUVENTUS IMPACTUS. Don't miss it. Take care. Bye! Hey, prometo babai, danke pa escucha e episode aqui. Se abo a gostei e a é interessante, check out nos outros episodes riba YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast e Google Podcast.